The story begins with a man named Henry, a ranger who spent most of his life working in the forest, handling wildlife. He was used to the normal sounds and sights of nature. But today, something felt different. He received a report about a black bear spotted nearby. It wasn't strange to see bears in the area, but there was something unusual about this one. Henry decided to check it out, unaware that this decision would change everything. As Henry walked through the thick woods, he saw movement ahead. He slowed down, knowing that rushing could startle the bear. The last thing he wanted was to surprise a wild animal, especially a bear. As he got closer, his heart raced. He couldn't believe his eyes. The bear wasn't alone. It was holding something in its paws, something small. It was a child. Henry's mind went into overdrive. Why was the bear with the child? Was the child in trouble? In all his years as a ranger, Henry had never seen anything like this. The bear looked calm but protective, its eyes never leaving the child. Henry knew one wrong move could be dangerous. The situation was delicate, and the child's safety depended on every step he took next. He had to act carefully. Taking slow, careful steps, Henry moved closer, trying not to make any noise. The bear had just placed the child on the ground, and Henry saw this as his only chance to rescue the boy. His heart raced as he knew he had to act fast, but before he could make a move, the bear turned its head and locked eyes with him. Henry froze in place, his heart pounding in his chest. One wrong move could make the bear attack. If it charged, the child could be hurt. He stayed perfectly still, holding his breath, praying the bear wouldn't notice him. The bear's gaze never left Henry. It seemed like hours, but in reality, only a few seconds passed. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of charging, the bear did something that shocked Henry. It grabbed the child gently and quickly ran into the woods, disappearing into the trees. Henry stood there completely still, unable to move. He tried to catch a glimpse of where the bear was going, but it was already too far away. Without wasting any time, Henry grabbed his radio and called for backup, urgently asking for help. But when he spoke to his fellow rangers, they didn't believe him. They thought he was imagining things. Henry couldn't believe it. He had seen the bear with a child, but they just brushed it off. They thought he was making up a story. Frustrated and desperate, Henry knew he couldn't just let this go. He had to save the child. With no other choice, he called the police. The officers arrived quickly and took Henry's report seriously. But things got even more strange when his boss called the officers into his office for a private conversation. Afterward, the officers came out, ignoring Henry, and headed straight for the forest. Henry felt confused and uneasy. What was going on? More officers soon arrived and seemed angry with him. They ordered him to stay put, making him feel like he was in trouble. Henry didn't know what to think. Was he missing something? Why were they acting like this? The officers who had gone into the forest returned and started questioning him in a way that made him feel like they didn't believe his story at all. It felt like they were mocking him, even hinting that he was lying. Henry, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness, couldn't hold it in any longer. He broke down in tears, overwhelmed by everything that had happened. He had been suspended from his job as a ranger, and his boss had told him he could no longer work in the forest. Henry's mind raced. Was he imagining everything? Could it have all been a nightmare? But deep down, he knew what he had seen. It soon became clear to Henry that part of the reason no one believed him was because of his recent loss. He and his wife had gone through the heartbreaking pain of losing their baby. It made sense that people thought Henry was just grieving and seeing things that weren't there. But no matter how much others doubted him, Henry couldn't forget the image of the bear with the child. He couldn't walk away from it. Henry knew the child was still out there, and he couldn't let the bear take him away. His wife begged him to stay home and rest, but Henry's only thought was finding the child and making sure he was safe. He couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. So, without telling anyone, he decided to head into the forest alone, early in the morning, hoping no one would stop him. Before leaving, Henry visited his best friend Johnson, another ranger. Johnson had heard about what happened and was shocked to see Henry in such a state. Henry explained everything and asked for Johnson's help in finding the child. After some hesitation, Johnson agreed to help. He didn't want his friend facing a dangerous bear alone. As they made their way deeper into the forest, Henry couldn't stop talking about the bear and the child. Johnson started to worry that Henry might have lost touch with reality. But then, something caught Johnson's eye. They came across tracks in the dirt, bear tracks. They were big, much bigger than usual. Johnson's curiosity grew. Maybe, just maybe, Henry had seen something real after all. The two men decided to follow the tracks, but soon they found themselves lost. The bear seemed to have disappeared. Henry's frustration grew, but then, out of nowhere, they heard it. A deep, loud roar that sent a chill down their spines. The sound was close, so close that it made Henry's heart race. Despite the fear, he couldn't stop. He knew the bear was near, and he couldn't turn back now. Johnson, on the other hand, was scared. He tried to pull Henry back, not wanting to get too close to the bear, but Henry wouldn't listen. He told Johnson to stick together because their best chance was to stay close. Reluctantly, Johnson agreed. They pushed forward, and the roar grew louder. Eventually, they found themselves standing in front of a cave. The bear's tracks led straight inside. Henry wanted to rush in, but a wave of doubt hit him. This was dangerous. Way too dangerous. But he couldn't shake the thought of the child. With every instinct telling him to turn back, Henry stepped forward. He could see the bear's large shape inside the cave, and his heart pounded. But then, from deep inside the cave, he heard it, the sound of a child crying. The bear, hearing the child's cries, rushed back inside the cave. Henry's heart sank. The child was there, and the bear was guarding him. Then, the bear came back out, its eyes locking onto Johnson. Henry shouted at Johnson to stay still, but Johnson panicked. He took a step back, and in an instant, the bear charged. Johnson ran, but he tripped. The bear was right behind him, its claws just inches away. He scrambled up a tree, barely escaping. Henry didn't waste a second. He ran toward the cave, but as he did, Johnson yelled, warning him the bear was coming. Henry didn't look back. He rushed straight into the dark cave, pulling out his phone to use its flashlight. In the dim light, he saw the child lying on the ground. At first, the boy seemed unharmed, but Henry knew they had to leave quickly. The bear would be back soon. He turned off the flashlight, hoping the darkness would hide them. But the child, sensing danger, started crying again. Suddenly, Henry saw the bear's eyes in the dark. The bear charged toward them, but just as Henry thought it would attack, the bear stumbled and collapsed to the ground. It fell, as if drugged. Henry realized Johnson had called the Rangers, who had sent a sedative to stop the bear. The plan had worked, and they were safe, for now. With the bear out of the way, Henry quickly grabbed the child and rushed out of the cave. Just as they were leaving, the Rangers arrived, taking control of the situation and removing the bear. But one question still lingered. Who was the child, and where were his parents? At the hospital, doctors checked the boy over, and Henry stayed by his side the whole time. After running some tests, they confirmed the child was healthy. But then, they discovered the heartbreaking truth. The boy's parents had died in a car accident near the forest, and the bear had found him and kept him safe. Sitting in the hospital with his wife, Henry didn't need to say a word. They both felt it. They were meant to help this child. They decided to adopt him, feeling a deep connection that couldn't be ignored. The adoption process moved quickly, and soon the boy became part of their family. Henry also got his job back. What started as a terrifying and strange situation turned into something beautiful. A new family, brought together by a brave man, a caring bear, and a child who needed love. That's all for today. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts about this story. What's the next story you'd like to know? Let us know in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any of these amazing videos on the Wild Wonder.